The Bloodline Legacy, a Georgia plantation's darkest secret, deep in the heart of Georgia. Hidden from the pages of official history lies a story so chilling it was almost erased. A tale not of ghosts, but of a living, breathing nightmare engineered by one woman. This is the story of Blackwood Manor, its mistress Eleanor Vance, and the 23 children found locked in its basement. Secret that would shock the Union soldiers who discovered them in the final days of the Civil War. A desperate plan, 1847. The winter they buried Charles Vance was the coldest that rural Cedar County had seen in a generation. The plantation he left behind, Blackwood Manor, was a sinking ship, 1,800 acres of tired soil, crumbling buildings, and debts that loomed larger than the live oaks surrounding the property. Eleanor Vance, just 28 and newly widowed, faced a stark choice: retreat to her family in Savannah in disgrace or perform a miracle. The estate's lawyer, a pragmatic man named Mr. Albright, offered no hope. The land was exhausted, the enslaved workforce depleted to a mere 35 souls. The cotton economy was failing them. But Eleanor was not a woman who accepted defeat. During a long, sleepless night, a plan formed in her minder plan of such cold, brutal logic that it was both monstrous and, to her, brilliant. If she couldn't buy new workers, she would breed her own. But not in the random way of other plantations. She would create a workforce bound to Blackwood not by law alone, but by blood. She was young. She could bear children. She would select the strongest men from the enslaved population. Her children would be raised knowing their lineage, granted small privileges to ensure their loyalty, and when they came of age, they would be paired to produce the next generation. Within 2 decades, she calculated, she would have a self-sustaining population of over 50 workers, all genetically tied to her and to the land. They would have nowhere else to go. She began a journal, which she called her Ledger of Growth. She wrote in a simple cipher, replacing human terms with agricultural ones. Children were saplings, the men were foundation stock, and pregnancies were sowings. Her first entry from March 1847 read, "First sowing complete. Foundation stock number 1, Elias, 25. Conditions favorable. Anticipate yield late autumn." Her stepson, William, a quiet, observant 16-year-old, was the first to suspect. He noticed the whispered meetings with the local midwife, Agatha Miller, and the furtive nighttime summonses for the enslaved man. Elias, when he finally discovered and decoded Eleanor's ledger, the truth horrified him. This was not a simple affair. It was a systematic breeding program. But when he confronted Eleanor, she subtly threatened him. Soon after, William fell ill with a wasting sickness that doctors diagnosed as a nervous fever. He was dead by Christmas. 4 days after his funeral, Eleanor gave birth to a son. She named him Charles, after her late husband, and claimed he was born prematurely. The legacy grows 1848 to 1863. The years that followed saw Blackwood Manor miraculously rebound. To outsiders, Eleanor Vance was a shrewd, if reclusive, businesswoman who had saved her family's estate. But the hidden cost was unimaginable. Eleanor bore 4 more children, daughters she named Seraphina and Beatrice, and another son, James. Each had a different father, carefully selected for his physical attributes. The midwife, Agatha Miller, was paid handsomely for her silence and her other darker services, administering abortifacients to enslaved women whose pregnancies did not fit Eleanor's meticulous plans. These children, Eleanor's own flesh and blood, occupied a strange liminal space. Legally, they were enslaved, registered as the children of unnamed enslaved women. In practice, they lived in the main house, wore fine clothes, and were secretly taught to read and write by Eleanor herself. She told them they were orphans she had saved from destitution. She was, in fact, grooming them for their roles in her grand design. By 1859, Eleanor had constructed a secret room in the manor's West Winger legacy chamber tier. She kept her encoded ledgers, vials of hair samples from each child, and elaborate charts mapping out future pairings for generations to come. She was not just running a plantation, she was playing God, designing a human dynasty of her own bloodline, forever enslaved to her will. As the Civil War raged and news of Union advances filtered through, a quiet rebellion began to stir. The enslaved population and even Eleanor's own children started to understand the cage she had built. The eldest daughter, Seraphina, discovered the ledgers and learned the horrifying truth of her parentage. The illusion of charity shattered, replaced by the grim reality of her destiny as a breeding tool in her mother's nightmare. The Reckoning, 1864, in March of 1864, with Sherman's march echoing in the distance, Eleanor's world collapsed. Knowing that emancipation would destroy her life's work, she made a final, desperate move. She gathered her 11 biological children in the legacy chamber. "The Yankees are coming," she told them, her voice eerily calm. "They will try to take you away to destroy our family. I cannot allow that." She produced a bottle of laudanum. "This is the only way to keep us together, to protect you." But her children, led by the now 16-year-old Charles and Seraphina, rebelled. "You're not protecting us," Charles said, his voice breaking. "You've imprisoned us. You're a monster." Defeated and enraged, Eleanor snatched her ledgers and specimens and fled the house. Running toward the slave quarters, perhaps to destroy the evidence or make one final, futile stand. What happened next is lost to official history. The enslaved population, witnessing the mistress running toward them in a frenzy, saw their moment. Eleanor Vance disappeared that night. Her journals were found scattered and burned. Her body was never found. When a regiment of the 28th New York Infantry arrived at Blackwood Manor, they discovered 23 children locked in a root cellar. They all shared the same distinctive features: high cheekbones, grey-blue eyes, and chestnut hair. The eldest, a girl of 13, simply said, "The mistress told us we are her legacy. We cannot leave, for we are her blood." A Union captain, in a private letter later buried in archives, wrote of disturbing evidence of systematic breeding and noted that the mistress had met with a fate the witnesses would not elaborate on, but which seemed to them a form of justice. He chose not to investigate further. The site of Blackwood Manor is just forest and field now. You won't find it on any map. The story of Eleanor Vance persists only in Fragment's soldier's letter, a deathbed confession, the oral histories of descendants. It's a story that forces us to confront the darkest logic of slavery, a system where human beings were treated as property, and one woman took that idea to its most horrifying conclusion. What do you think? Are there still secrets buried in Cedar County? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.